This is Daryl Evans with Kings Vision at LAKings.com with Kings insider John Rosen. Well, John, the Kings prepare for Game 2, trailing the series 1-0, something that never happened last year in the postseason. In doing so, we see Daryl Sutter today in practice making a few subtle adjustments to the lines, going back to some familiar combinations. Kopitar centering Brown and Williams as the Kings' top unit. What do you think about that?
It looks like what we saw at the very beginning of the playoffs last year in Game 1 against the Vancouver Canucks. Naturally, you do have that chemistry with Kopitar centering Brown to his left, Williams to his right. I like to see that Dwight King was on that second line with Dustin Penner on the third line as left wings. Those two are interchangeable, so you have, to start out at least, it would appear, Dwight King alongside Richards and Carter, Penner with Stoll and Lewis. That was effective in that first round series against Vancouver. And again, Dustin Penner, he's having a strong game, getting himself involved, being strong around the net. You can move him up, play him with Jeff Carter and Mike Richards, where they had that chemistry and that production last year. So it does provide some options in the lineup. Also, it looked like Colin Fraser going in the fourth line. He could be centering Kyle Clifford to his left, Jordan Nolan to his right.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for Daryl Sutter to put the combinations back together, the guys that are familiar playing with each other. I also think that it shows the opponent tonight, the St. Louis Blues, that the Kings are very comfortable and have the confidence that their team, the way they were and what they've accomplished with that team, can get the job done. The start of the game is going to be a very important part. Scoring the first goal of the game is going to be big. We all saw the way St. Louis came out in Game 1. Physically, they really took to the Kings in the opening 20 minutes. The Kings will have to respond, and I think when you look up the makeup, that fourth unit, Colin Fraser in the middle between Kyle Clifford and Jordan Nolan, probably a matchup that we'll see out there against the unit, the fourth line for the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, a lot of physicality in that fourth line there. Of course, in this game, it was a very heavy, hard-working game in that Game 1. The Kings looking to be able to go out there, establish that forecheck, establish that physicality. They want to be able to have that speed. They've been able to show that in games with players like Kyle Clifford getting in there, making those hits behind the net. He was in no danger of leaving the lineup. Colin Fraser, he's going to be playing in his first game of this series. He's somebody that, as we all know from last year's playoff run and what we've seen, in his 2 years as an LA King, provides that energy, provides that character, not afraid to make those hits, being able to go in, be able to forecheck, and that's what they're looking for. These two teams, of course, you saw St. Louis go in there, establish kind of their will, their forecheck, their hard work early on in that game. It took the Kings a little bit while to be able to adapt to that. Tonight, the Kings looking to have a better start and take it, be able to control the play early, dictate the pace of the play, and hopefully get that first goal.
Yeah, and listening to Ken Hitchcock this morning in his scrum after their practice, the Blues, he was making comments with regards to he feels that the Kings are going to be a better team, that they're going to make the adjustments. He also feels that his team's going to have to be a lot better. He says if that's the best game of our series, we're not going to win the series. They're going to have to get better in order to win. He understands how good that the Kings are as a team, and what they were able to accomplish last year was because they were able to dig down, make changes basically on the go. They were able to do it during the games. They didn't lose, the first game of each series last year. But he is very confident that the Kings are going to come right back tonight and come up with a hard effort.
Yeah, a lot of the quotes from the Blues locker room over the last 2 days is that they expect the Kings to have a serious push here tonight and come forth with so far their best effort of the series. I talked to David Backus after the Blues morning skate earlier today. He said the message from Ken Hitchcock and the Blues coaching staff is that they've won one game. It's the best of 7 series. They're up 1-0. It's the first team to win 4 games, obviously, and they're prepared for a Kings push back in this game. They're going to be looking to be the assertive team, being the team that goes out there, controls the pressure. So again, with these two teams where they kind of have those those similar charges against each other, two somewhat similar teams, we should see another physical game and another hotly contested game between these two rivals.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to listen to the coaches doing their scrums, whether it be post-practice, post-game, or things like that. They're kind of very familiar with each other and what each guy can do with their respective team. And this morning, one of the questions that was posed to Ken Hitchcock after their scrum was, how does he compare to Daryl Sutter? And he says, well, like in the off-season, he says, Daryl Sutter talks to cows. He says, I talk to golfers. So I thought that was a one way of lightening things up. I think, St. Louis, they understand what they accomplished in Game 1, but I also think there's a little bit of fear as to what might come in Game 2 from the Kings.
Yeah, as we said, the Kings, they're expecting that strongest push so far of the series. At least when you see talking to Dustin Penner yesterday, he indicated too that the Kings have to come out with their strongest effort. You don't want to fall behind 2-0 in the series. Speaking of the two coaches, two long-tenured Albertan coaches, they are get along with each other well away from the rink over the off season. We've been in scrums here during the regular season, where Daryl Sutter was holding court, talking to reporters, and Ken Hitchcock comes by, mentions something, interrupts him almost. Daryl Sutter took it in stride, remember, earlier in the year, but called out to him. Even last year at the NHL Awards, Ken Hitchcock, said, "Oh, thanks a lot." I'm paraphrasing, of course. Thanks a lot, Daryl, referring to last year's Kings season series sweep, or I should say playoff series sweep. So, off the ice, they're a couple of, well-respected. They get along with each other. On the ice, it's going to be a little bit different of an atmosphere between these two teams today.
Different atmosphere and a little different approach as well, with the game starting locally here, 8:30 in St. Louis. Both coaches, a little bit of uncharted territory, as to the preparation through the course of the day. So we're going to see how that goes. Should be a great game tonight, John. We'll look forward to talking to you after this one.
After this one, I'm not even sure what time that will be. I was talking to Helene Elliott downstairs. She said the last time that she remembered 8:30 starts in the old Madison Square Garden when the circus would come to town, and they'd have to cancel a late circus performance to get a Rangers game in earlier in the day or later in the day, and that would be on a Sundays. So I'm not sure what to expect here. Get the pots of coffees boiled up here.
Well, the Kings tonight will look to even the series at 1-1 going back to Los Angeles. This is Daryl Evans with John Rosen with Kings Vision at LAKings.com.